On everybody, welcome into the Creed of Crypto podcast. How you doing? I am Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. Welcome in. Hit the like on the way in. If you don't do it for us, do it for Native American Senator Elizabeth Warren, who we'll be talking about here tonight in her new bill to crush crypto. It's going to be a good conversation for sure. We have a lot to talk about tonight. I'm sure we're going to have an active chat, so hit us up with questions, comments on everything that's going on in the world of crypto, and the world of DeFi, and the world of PulseChain. We have tons of stuff to get to. It's going to be a great show. We had CPI today. Nobody really cares about that, but anyway, it dropped by 0.1%. That's inflation in the U.S. Still not good, but I guess people were celebrating it. Tomorrow we have probably a useless FOMC meeting where nothing occurs at all. And we'll continue to look into some cool statements from Charles Hoskinson from Cardonzo, who somebody got real pissed at us for making that joke about saying Cardonzo that way a couple of weeks ago, not realizing it was a Jim Cramer gaffe. But anyway, Ewok, how you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling good. Working our way through all the mud again. It's part of the bear market blues for everybody. Things are starting to look up a little bit, but there's always something happening or something going on to cause a whole bunch of FUD, and just kind of working through it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's young, immature people in crypto. I mean, you mix those two things together and you're going to have that for sure. But yeah, it is interesting, and we're going to obviously look at prices here, kind of first thing. But you and I were just talking about Bitcoin and ETH here the last couple of weeks, well, last week really, and I cut up one of our clips and put it out that we're more likely to see BTC go back to 35K than to 50K. Which is something we both agreed with last week. And we're already, I think, starting to see the beginning of that move. We've seen it dip over the last couple of days. Now, a small rally today, but with a local top at almost 45K, 44K to 45K here over the last week, you could kind of just see it. I mean, the market's just getting a little bit too frothy, not realizing like it's still 2023. Not that, we don't know everything. Obviously, nobody does. I guess it could have just gone straight up to maybe 48 or so and rejected off of there. But certainly at this point, we look like we've probably got a local top. I'd venture to say maybe it's going to be our high for the year. I mean, it's not saying a lot. We only got 3 weeks left. But I do think we are going to see some continued, modest red for Bitcoin and the rest of the market at large here anyway for the next couple of weeks, and just see a pullback. It would just make sense. All these people, I just saw a poll the other day. I forget who took it, but it was a big time account. But most people were somehow actually expecting that 50K would happen this month. I mean, I don't know. I think that screams like I only hold Bitcoin and I need this to happen, And I think maybe that's where that energy is coming from.
But I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people forget that there's some large investments or investors in the markets who will not be afraid to take profits before the halvening, just knowing previous cycles, what's going on. And I think that, you're seeing that. You're seeing the early onsets of that.
Oh,
sorry about that.
She can join
in. She's usually right beside me. But
that's her first bark we've ever heard. So actually, that's big for her. Yeah,
I do have a dog. So
yeah.
But yeah, I forget where I even was. Oh yeah, there's a lot of large players in there that know how to play the markets, that will do this type of thing, and you're seeing it. That's kind of why we said there will be a sizable pullback here by the end of the year. Some people taking profits, waiting for it to dip back down to get their entry point before it takes off, then before the halvening starts. So just what we're seeing, we've been talking about it and warning people that it's not going to continue to go up. And most of those people that say 50K by the end of the year, they're the ones that were probably calling for, $300,000 Bitcoin at the end of the last cycle. And
right.
So you just watch out, be careful, and don't overextend yourself, because there is going to be, this pullback, and who knows how far it will dip. Sometimes it's been pretty sizable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, maybe worst case scenario, we go back to the low 30s again, although I don't know that I'd like I said, worst case scenario, but I think in the region of 35K again, and that could even, I mean, from the point we're at right now, I mean, I think there will be a time here early in 2024 that we're trading below these prices, and I think that we've had this conversation not just with crypto altogether, but also our ecosystem with PulseChain and everything that, you know, well, 2024 we figure to be a bullish year all around for the most part. Um, I think people are going to be amazed when it's like the calendar turns to January 1st and everything's not just instantly super bullish. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still going to take a little bit of time. And,
Yep.
people do forget, like with these market cycles in crypto, that great stuff and the blow offs happen in this very, very condensed period of time at the end, you know.
Yep.
Um,
Usually condensed to about 2 months.
mhm.
And that's maybe even pushing it. Sometimes several weeks is usually when you see the majority of the big green candles. It all happens very fast, and it comes and it goes. So if you're not ready for it, that's why we say DCA in, so that you're there when it does happen, instead of trying
Right.
to time it.
People will be kicking themselves really, really hard for not DCAing over the last year and a half or so, for sure. Once things take off, take a look at the PulseChain ecosystem prices. So we've obviously had some volatility over the last week. You and I, Ewok, actually were the catalysts, it looked like, for this big drop that we had last week. I think we were right at this point in the show actually last week. So maybe I should check the chart again now and see if anything has changed. It doesn't look like it, but we had a big kind of drop of about 15% or so during this time last week.
Yeah.
But right now, we've been really consolidating in that area that we really dropped down to. So it looks like it may consolidate here for a bit before never returning, possibly. Something I saw that Sami had pointed out, and it does look similar if you look at the charts, but if you look at XRP Ripple over the summer, right after their victory over the SEC. Obviously, we remember they did like a 2x in one day off of that news. And, that was probably the biggest obvious short of a lifetime. It was obviously going to come back down. But if you look at, like, they retraced almost that entire move. So Ripple
Yep.
beat the SEC, this big thing finally happened. And they retraced almost the entire move, and then they consolidated for a while before moving back up. And the charts actually do look relatively similar. So, yeah, I think we probably continue to consolidate here, maybe for the rest of the year, or like right around this mark. But I kind of feel like we've seen our new low, if you will, of this 50% off the sack rate right around this region anyway. But what do you think about that, Ewok?
Yeah, I agree. I think my dog's going crazy. Bear
Yeah,
with me a minute, okay?
no worries. Yeah, go. I can. You need to go do something. I can fill in.
Yeah, I'm just going to see why the
Okay.
massive barking. I'll be right back.
Okay, go ahead. So yeah, I think that we will continue to see consolidation here. Basically, these prices for the Pulse token, obviously, which everything's obviously liquidity bonded, so I think we'll see everything pretty much right there. But this is an interesting time, and there was an interesting event last night that I'm sure we're going to talk about. I've been looking out to see in the chat if anybody wants to bring it up. But obviously, the news last night that a lot of people on Twitter decided to go break to the world without actually reading anything and kind of misrepresenting what happened. But some things in terms of the certain three-letter agency lawsuit against Richard Hart, and whether or not he'd actually been served and things like that. I want to get into that conversation with Ewok, but I thought it was interesting, and I said this to Ewok actually last night when that news, if you even want to call it that, did break. And I said, I don't think we're going to see any kind of sell pressure off of this because we just had that huge move happen last week. This, regardless of what really happened, was kind of to be expected in this whole, useless ordeal anyway. So it just kind of is what it is. I don't think we'll see much of a move. And yeah, here we are 24 hours later, and we really haven't seen that. So I didn't notice when you got back, Ewok, but I was just saying how you and I were talking last night. Regarding the piece of news we're going to get to about hasn't he been served and all that, not
Right.
really creating any extra sell-off event because I think we already saw that and it's not really news anyway. So yeah, what do you make of that?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I think it's a non-event. First of all, we realize that it's probably not true, not going to hold up.
Yeah.
And yeah, this comment says something about being served on Halloween. Well, you know, there was a meeting on the 26th that extended it. So apparently that wasn't good enough. So, you know, yeah, I think a lot or the majority of the weekends have been washed out. You know, there's still maybe a little bit to go. But, you know, I'm pretty certain that we're damn close. And what's left to sell off probably isn't going to affect things a whole lot. The one thing I did see, and again, not to FUD, but there were, I don't know, 300 to 600 validators that came offline. Um, and you do need 32 million for each of those. So why they came offline? Are they going to rotate into a different investment? Is the, 14, 15, 16% not good enough? Do they think they can get higher yield somewhere else? Are they going to sell? What's going to happen? I don't know. But if you figure, 600 or so times 32 million each, that's a lot of pulse.
Yeah.
Just be prepared for a move like that. Maybe they'll move it into liquid loans, do something. Again, I don't know enough to speculate if it's one wallet, but to see that many come offline at the same time, leads me to believe that there's a bigger play maybe that they're looking for. I don't know. So that's something to consider. But yeah, I think we're pretty much there. I think we've
Yeah.
pretty much bottomed out, and any news at this point isn't really going to affect things a whole awful lot.
I agree with you, and it leads me to another question that I've been seeing some people argue with. I mean, it's bear market stuff. It's just basically people being pissy for the prices being down. But the idea of this ecosystem, PulseChain, being decorrelated from the rest of crypto, and we did see it in the past with Hex, regardless of if anybody was around to see that or forgets it or whatever. I mean, it did decorrelate. Basically, by the time after the halvening the last time around is when Hex really took off, which, if you look at how things are happening right now, you could see maybe a similar scenario playing out for PulseChain. But like the other day, for example, when BTC dumped Sunday night, and then PulseChain did the exact same thing. I saw people on Twitter saying, like, "See, we're not we're correlated. Whatever it does, we do, and everything." And I think it's important to illustrate that, just like when we talk about markets, like, what is a bull market? What do you consider a bull market? Well, a bull market, a bear market, correlation, decorrelation, whatever, is all a time frame. So it's like, what is the time frame that you're looking at? Like, you could say that crypto is a terrible investment. You could say that it is the worst investment in the world over the last 2 years. If you look at it from 2013 to now, you wouldn't say that. 2010 to now, obviously, you wouldn't say that. So, what is your time frame? So, what do you make of that, Ewok? I mean, because I do still think that this ecosystem is not correlated straight to Bitcoin. I mean, well, look at the bit. So, we had the launch of PulseChain. I mean, since then, the ecosystem's been down. Bitcoin's 2x up off the lows. So that doesn't sound like a lot of correlation right now. So anyway, what do you make of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, so financially, it's not correlated to Bitcoin. There isn't a whole lot of liquidity pairs with Bitcoin at all on any exchanges. However, you still have sentiment correlation too. And that means a lot. Overall, the markets are down. So, while the financial side of it, as far as liquidity, isn't tied to it, you still have that sentimental binding that's out there, and it's going to be that way. The comment that you made, see, it's not correlated. Every time Bitcoin goes up, Pulse stays the same, and every time Bitcoin comes down, Pulse goes down. So it's one of those really, it is a weird correlation. It's a but it's all sentiment. It's not really financial. So that's my take on it. And bear market, or this period, the sideways portion of this lasts a long time. It pumps up a little bit. You take 2 steps forward and then 1 step back, or maybe 2 steps back and start over again. And it really does tend to shake people out. And if the statement is right, 52 weeks to shake out the weekends, we still have 17, 18 weeks to go, I believe.
Yeah.
as far as that's concerned before we start making any kind of major moves.
Well, yeah, and point to whatever line in the you want to, whether it's that statement that Richard has made, or like just when the halvening is, and seeing how Hex has behaved in the past. I mean, I think everything's pretty much right on schedule. We're going to see BTC pull back here, and again, talking about that correlation thing. A viewer on one of our videos the other day said, "Wow, you guys are saying like BTC could go back to 35K. Where do you think this ecosystem goes if that happens?" I don't think it really follows. That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I think we could have that kind of pullback with BTC. I don't think that we do go much lower. So that's kind of my point. And, people are looking at these like, 5-minute chart moves to see if the two are correlated. That's just not how correlation works. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, it can. I mean, if you wanted to and you want to look at that as your timeline, then fine, it's correlated. But I mean, I would choose to look at it on a grander scale. So, finishing off with kind of the news from today. So the CPI today, I mentioned it earlier, inflation in the U.S. came down to 3.1. So it actually did fall a little bit. I don't know what their expected number was or anything, but it only fell from 3.2% the month prior in October. So that was the November reading. So no change expected in tomorrow's FOMC meeting. They're going to meet for the final time this year, are the Fed. And we've pretty much assumed that they're standing pat now for months. But I will say, Ewok, because the more interesting conversation about them and where they're going to take things directionally moving into 2024 has been, when will they pivot? When will the cutting happen? Will they cut next? Will they hike again? Well, percentage-wise, for what the public thinks, it looks like 46%. I saw this poll posted today. 46% chance by the voting public of cuts in March of next year. 60% believe it will happen in May. So basically, with the rate hikes, I think that narrative is pretty much out the window. And I agree. I don't think we're going to see that, regardless of any kind of cautious talk that Jerome Powell gives anybody. I do think we see them by the summer of next year. But what do you make of this, Ewok? It looks like the market kind of just in that springtime, right around the halvening. That's what many people have been saying for a while. But like March or April, to see when the cut could happen. So what do you make of that? And should that scenario pan out, what can we expect with the market pulling back? Because the cuts are actually a bearish event in the short term.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that early. I still don't. I mean, I know there's sentiment, but there's a lot of hopefulness that it could be in the spring. But, we still talk May, June. I guess that's the end of spring before summer really gets here. But until there is a reversal of any kind, until then we just stay stagnant. And, how much of this stuff is really priced in at the beginning until it does happen, until, there's proof that it happens. It probably will pull back a little bit at that point, because historically it does. So, I think that's what we can look forward to. And again, history repeats itself until it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's what we're probably looking at. I do. Sorry about that. I think we will definitely see. And yeah, the timeline of June to July to see a rate cut, it's certainly possible. I mean, it could take until then. But I think the spring just makes a lot of sense with what is happening in the financial world in addition to that. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for it. Of course, maybe there'll be something we can glean tomorrow. I doubt it. I mean, I'm not really interested in their speeches or anything like that, but I do think we see a pivot by then. And yeah, to the point of it being a bearish event, I mean, yeah, when the cuts happen, yes, it is good that we're going to be getting things back to normal in the long run. But again, in the short term, you are going to see downturns in the market. And what will that be? I think maybe like a month or something like that. I mean, maybe 2, just to slow things down. But I think the greater market structure will remain for crypto anyway after that. So, yeah.
DJ Moonboy's asking, what price do I cut my beard again? Well,
I have been noticing that you're growing. Like, did you just get a cut after the PulseChain release and just let it go again?
Yeah. It's almost back to where it was.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. So what does it take for you to shave it again? I mean, you like the look, apparently.
I do. I've gotten kind of used to it, and I don't know. Give me a price. What do you think? 50 cents?
Oh my God, you may be here for a little while. I don't
Oh, that's
know.
all right. It could be a ZZ Top tiered by then.
You would definitely be in ZZ Top territory by
Yeah.
then. Yeah. Um. Okay. So he says 2 zeros and a 2. So okay.
Oh, that's for
Maybe we can.
Pulse.
Yeah, for Pulse. Yeah. Oh, is that were we talking Hex or Pulse? I thought
I
we were
was
talking about Pulse.
talking I was talking Hex, but
Oh, okay. 50 cents for Pulse is quite a different thing than 50 cents for Hex.
yeah,
Okay.
no,
All
no,
right.
no. 50-cent Hex.
That makes sense.
Or a
Cool.
combination is what I meant. Combination 50 cent, so it could have been 25
There
on
you
each
go.
chain. So
There you go. There you go.
we'll go with 2 cents or point two. I guess what's that? A
Whatever
fifth
that
of
is,
a fifth,
200s.
a fifth of a penny.
There you go. There you go. Cool. Okay. Well, hey, if you guys are enjoying the stream so far, do us a favor, hit the like. We do this every single Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a lot more to get to. Real quick, I wanted to touch on this. I know this isn't necessarily something crypto related, but I wanted to touch on that Elon Musk interview on CNBC from just a couple of weeks ago. We meant to talk about this last week, and we'll do it real quick here tonight. But I thought Gary Woods, funding Jim, obviously within this community and ecosystem, he talked about, and this is of course the Musk interview with whoever that interviewer was, basically saying, no, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. Basically that Disney can fuck themselves.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the exact quote was,
Well,
but
they were trying to bribe his speech if they wanted his or their advertisements, and he basically said, "Go fuck yourself. I'm
yeah.
not doing that. You're not going to hold me hostage to my own free speech," which
And
I applaud him for. Go ahead.
I do as well. And I mean, I think we're kind of preaching to the choir with, mostly supporting what Elon Musk does to our viewers, but it was still a great cultural moment. And Gary said this in a tweet, being a culture shift moment. It truly was epic. And I think can spill over into crypto. I mean, like we have this kind of changing of the guard that has really been necessary in Western culture in the United States over the last few years, where it's no secret that with these presidential elections, the pendulum swings so hard. From one year, you look through time. Traditionally, we have a Democrat president followed by a Republican president, followed by a Democrat, back to a Republican. Like it goes back and forth because of that social pendulum just swinging. And I think that the Trump phenomenon had that pendulum swing so far in that direction that we swung back way too far in the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're kind of bringing it back to center with these figures like Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, obviously, just these people, Patrick Bet-David, just people that honestly, a lot of them seem like maybe old school Democrats. And I mean that like, I don't mean that totally insulting either. I mean, like, when we were growing up, being a Democrat was a lot different than what being a Democrat is right now. There's a lot of people that are voting Republican these days that were, that their views haven't even changed that much, and they were Democrats their entire lives, So I think we're seeing that culture shift moment basically with him saying things like that, with him owning Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it now. But yeah, this is what we need is more leaders to become brave like this. Now he's rich as hell, so obviously it's easy for him to be that brave. But there's plenty of other rich people out there that put their tail between their legs and don't fight for any causes at all, and just kind of have the corporate media shut them up and don't fight. So yeah, I thought it was just great to see. I mean, what do you think this could do, like just spilling over into crypto and stuff like that as well? Because I think that just these kind of attitudes and everything does empower citizens more against some of the tyrants like Native American Elizabeth Warren, who we'll be talking about here in a moment in her new crypto bill. But she's the real tyrant, and I think that something like that does empower people to just rage against this machine, so to speak. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, I want to read grounded in Hex's comment. It says, please don't drink the Elon Kool-Aid. And I don't know
I'm not.
if there really is any Kool-Aid. He supports free speech, and that's one thing that we can't get rid of, because all the other social media platforms, obviously we've seen how they monitor and mute and put people in Facebook jail or whatever for saying things that go against the grain. And that's one thing that I do respect Elon for doing. So if that's Kool-Aid, then I guess it is. But I'm not going to be a huge fan to make him the next president or anything crazy like that.
No.
I just do want to protect the rights while we have them, because once we lose them, they never come back, and that's a big fear that a lot of people have is, once you start taking away those rights and freedoms, you don't get them back. So that's one of the reasons why I do like Elon, and I like that part of it. I want to have a platform where you can say what you want, well, within reason. Obviously, your free speech matters.
Yeah.
You obviously can't go out hating people and threatening people. That's one of those things where your First Amendment right kind of gets thrown out the window is when you start threatening people. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm all for it. I do like the stance that he's made, and I think it gives people the platform to do so and not be afraid to say something for fear of being banned or punished or whatever. So I'm all for it.
And definitely in no way fanboying out. Trust me, there's enough fanboys out there of, these types like Musk and stuff like that. I mean, I've never been anything like that, I think, for myself. I'm just saying that it's good to see somebody doing that. He is doing that. And, he's done a lot for society. And I support it a lot more than what a lot of the other people that are loud are talking about. So
Right.
it is what it is. And it was a cool moment, I think, anyway. That leads us to a good transition here. So let's talk about Chief Warren. So Elizabeth Warren, senator in the United States from Massachusetts, claiming crypto is a threat. This is something new. She's assembled an anti-crypto army before, and now she's introducing a crackdown on crypto bill. She introduced it on Monday. So, and I said this to you, Ewok, it's always some kind of cartoonish, like comic book nature of her bills. The crypto crackdown, the anti-crypto army, like we're banding together. It's always this very cartoony type thing. But
Sure.
But anyway, so basically all this talking stuff about people that did 15 years ago that is like funding terrorism. That's what crypto is doing. It's funding terrorism, as if USD is not. I think what it is it's a threat to their boomer generation. That's really what's happening here. Stealing from our class. She won't get anything passed against crypto. I mean, she doesn't get anything passed at all. We saw the stats come out of her basically entire tenure. She's got a giant offer. I think she's over about 1,500. And I think that might be what it is that she's just kind of this I don't even know how to say it, like slogan gal, where she just puts out these things to get the ball rolling. She's basically like an engagement troll or an engagement farmer in real life. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, I agree. Luckily, like you said, the track record is awful. There isn't a whole lot of success for any of her crazy bills. And you do make the point that they don't ever talk about the funding of terrorism that happens with the US dollar. That is really untraceable. You have the sanctions now against Tornado Cash, where I don't know if it's not on your list really to talk about, but what they've done with Tether. They blocked tons and tons of accounts that had interacted with Tornado Cash. They can do the same thing with USDC. So just be very careful in the stable coins that you decide to hold, because if somebody says, I'm going to drop 0.001 ETH to thousands of people, just to make a statement, your wallet could be affected, as part of that has interacted with Tornado Cash, and next thing you know, your money's frozen. So, just be very careful. I would think I would lean towards DAI at this point if you're going to be in a stable coin, or Coast. We know Coast is pretty well decentralized and not affiliated with any of those, so that's a better one, for example. As far as Warren goes, she's just a mouthpiece to the banksters. I think really her and Gary Gensler are buddy. JP Morgan, all those Goldman Sachs type people, they use her to try and get these ideas and rally the troops. But it doesn't go very far. They realize what they're asking for is total anti-freedom things, and it will get shot down pretty quickly, as it should.
Yeah. Yeah, she uses, I just put it in the chat. She uses the harmless grandma strategy. I mean, she's kind of always done that. And if you've ever really seen any of her presentations, I mean, it's just always like, there are people in this country that can't put a solid meal on the table. It's always stuff like that with this, like, my voice is going and I'm this empathetic figure. It's people like that are like the biggest criminals. Isn't it funny how it always works out that way?
Well, and Hex Girl makes a good point. She's getting paid off. Did you see the net worth? She's worth like $63 million. She gets paid $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
But her monthly income is over $400,000. Like, how is that possible? Like, what's going on?
You make a couple of moves.
I'm not good at math, but that doesn't add up to me. That's like she saved every single penny that she's ever made.
Yeah. Well, she may be just a super minimalist and, saving up her pennies over the years.
Watching your videos.
Yeah, exactly. But or maybe she has some money left over from the reservation days or something like that. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. It doesn't compute to me either. But yeah, it's purely her and her cronies that want to preserve their illegally gotten wealth by keeping U.S. citizens under their thumb. I mean, this is what this is. They want to stifle innovation at every turn. It's just at some point, like, when does the U.S. actually fall behind because of some of this stuff, and when do these people, I'll say this politely, like, die off in terms of their political careers? You know what I mean? And to Hex Girl and yours comment, like the wealth thing. I mean, this isn't anything new. I mean, we saw that with Nancy Pelosi. I mean, all of these people are pretty much bought and paid for. I mean, most of I would venture to guess that even a lot of the Republicans in Congress are bought and paid for. I mean, it's just kind of,
unfortunately, that's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, the sooner that we kind of acknowledge everything as a uniparty system and just check out of it, the better. I mean, this is all a class war. It has nothing to do with Democrats versus Republicans, and that's what they want you to do, is constantly infight about, like, abortion and shit like that, when it's really about, like, we're rich, you're not, you stupid people just stay poor and argue on Facebook. And Elizabeth Warren is chief to that mission, I would say. So obviously I don't think that this stands any chance of getting passed, but you're right, Ewok. It is trying to crack down on interacting with things like Tornado Cash. And to your point, more importantly, as far as actionable things here, what can we do, to avoid the freezing of assets like that? Because Tether has basically cucked out, and it's freezing wallets that have Tether in it that have interacted with that. And I'm with you 100%. I mean, I expressed to you last night, like, not really wanting to use USDC going forward for fear of the same thing eventually happening down the line. While nothing has happened with it yet, DAI is definitely preferable, just censorship wise. So, I mean, what would your moves be to, like, when you're getting into PulseChain and stuff? Because I've still been using USDC. Maybe I'll shift over to ETH and DAI and just start transferring it over. But I mean, I think this should be a warning sign, looking at the direction of these stables, that we should stop using Tether and USDC. I just, I'd rather start the process early before something happens.
Sure. And I think the way to go is honestly, if you're going into PulseChain, try Coast. I think that's, one of the best ways to do it in a decentralized manner that isn't going to shut off your coins. You don't ever really have to worry about it. We've talked about the, I always forget the name of it too. It's the stable coin.
UST or
no, it's the trust one.
It's similar. I don't think it's UST, but it's similar to that. I think Johnny always tells us whenever he's here. But I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I always seem to forget the name of it, but it's a coin that's tied to a bunch of equities, things like that are backed by that instead of by dollars. They're backed in a different way, and they're not centralized in that manner. Who knows? Maybe they do have an on and off switch, but DAI is at least backed by multiple things. So if
Right.
they did try to shut one of it off, the other one probably wouldn't, or there's enough assets that are protecting it and backing it that one person, it doesn't have an off switch like that. So if you're going to do one of those, DAI would be the one that I would do. But like I said, I think you should really look into taking advantage of the Coast platform and what they've built.
Yeah, especially specifically for PulseChain. Is it TUSD Ewok, True USD? Is it that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought. Yeah. So I think it is advisable to start looking into other options there, because there are people there, I mean, obviously USDC is, Circle and BlackRock and all that stuff. So, I mean, I would try to quit using them. I mean, just might as well get in the habit of it now anyway.
Yeah.
So that's what Elizabeth Warren does have going on right now. So we'll kind of keep our ear to the ground as far as that goes. We're going to get in a little bit more to the PulseChain stuff here in a moment, because there's really good news to talk about there as well. One last thing I want to talk about, you brought up this over the weekend, Ewok, and I think it's an interesting video clip and an interesting story, and a lot of the comments on it were just asinine, I thought. But Charles Hoskinson, he of Cardano fame, with that snippet video of him in his famous Hawaiian shirt, and not that he only has one, but I don't know where he was, some kind of event. Maybe you saw this, but it was about a 2-minute video clip where he essentially said that the industry doesn't need Bitcoin to survive, which kind of led me. I was thinking of what kind of a poll question to put in our group tonight, and I thought this was interesting, is what best describes your relationship to Bitcoin? So BTC is part of my portfolio. I plan to buy BTC in the future is option number 2, or I'll never buy BTC again. I think it's interesting because we're at the stage where I think a lot of people are realizing that the returns are just not going to be there that obviously there used to be. Even seeing BTC go from 3K to 20K in a bull market before. Last time we saw 20K, from the lows, I don't know basically from top to top, 20K to 69K. This time, what are we going to see? 69K to 100 something K, maybe. So we don't know. But anyway, so far, BTC is part of my portfolio. It looks like 26% of our audience tonight holds Bitcoin right now. 15% plan to invest in it in the future. My guess when I hear that is like to preserve gains in the next bear market. And then I'll never buy BTC again is 59% of our audience, which is pretty much where I would be. I mean, it all depends on how you want to handle thing in a bear market, like when you take profits, what you want to put it into. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I have much reason to get into it. And I think that's, interesting. Obviously, Charles Hoskinson wasn't just talking about price appreciation for Bitcoin. He was talking about the ancient like tech of it versus the things that we are having built now. So I totally understand critics to what his comments were, saying that maybe Cardano isn't the solution. I understand that, and of course he's going to steal his own thing. But he is right about BTC is a religion. I mean, he definitely has that. I mean, as much as we realize that like Hex and PulseChain and everything is, BTC definitely is too. But yeah, why would you be against proof of stake if you're a BTC Maxi? He made great comparisons to desktop computers evolving to iPhones eventually. This stuff all evolves over time, and we're 15 years in at this point. So I personally don't agree about him, speculating that, about BTC dying. But I don't think it's going to die in like the not exist sense for certain. But in terms of like being ancient enough that it's more so ignored eventually. Yeah. I mean, I think he is right. And for some reason, comments were like lighting up his statement. So I don't know. What did you make of it? You're the one that brought it to my attention. So
yeah, there's a lot to unpack with it. And I think he even did say something like, well, maybe Cardano's not the answer either. But Bitcoin doesn't have to be, and it doesn't, I think what he was saying was the crypto market as a whole doesn't need Bitcoin to survive. It would, if Bitcoin died tomorrow, I think the rest of the crypto space would be okay. However, the exchanges do just fine. There's a lot of technicals out there that have been created that would do just fine if Bitcoin went away. People would just move their assets. So I think that was more his point, was, we don't need it to survive. It's there. It is the grandfather thing. It's old, father time, and it will be there for a while. However, something I read today is they're in some trouble, with the ordinals and that type of
Yeah.
thing, which they're causing problems blocking up the block space. So what do? Do you expand the block size? Do you get rid of the ordinals? There's a lot of things to take advantage of, and if you get rid of the ordinals, then there isn't really enough transactions to keep things going. It doesn't fund enough. So on one hand they need it, on another they don't. So it causes a lot of problems. So that's kind of where we're at. And again, it is the old, it's Windows 95.
Right.
It needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of upgrades. And unfortunately, it's so hard to do with the way it's coded. It's always called spaghetti code. And when you do upgrades and fixes, it usually introduces bugs. So that's why it hasn't been done. Just where we're at. There are a bunch of new things out there that, and the Maxi mentality will be there for as long as there are big bag holders in Bitcoin saying that is the only thing, because that's what they hold.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that's always going to be there. It was just some of the reactions to his statements I didn't understand at all. I think it's because whatever account that was that tweeted it out, which I do have it bookmarked. I should have brought that up. But whatever account tweeted it out, Jesus, come on, Twitter. Basically put a headline on it like, "Oh, Charles Hoskinson says Bitcoin is dead." And I think it was just people reacting, obviously, to the headline, as most people do. Yeah, I'm just trying to see what the actual, Cardano CEO, they call him. I don't see how Bitcoin survives. It's a religion, not an ecosystem. Hash rate will fall and it will die a slow something death. That doesn't make sense, but anyway. So people are reacting to the headline. If they watch it, I think you get the sentiment that he was talking about, and
yeah,
I agree with them. Yeah. So to your point about the ordinals, Ewok, because the Bitcoin ordinals thing has like all these people up in arms. Like Max Kaiser is losing his shit about it, and people that did buy Bitcoin way back in the day and are likely like billionaire status now and don't care about anybody else improving it or it going anywhere differently now and wanting just the rest of crypto to die. But Bitcoin Maxis here tweaking out about ordinals, wanting ETFs for their sacred crypto. The hypocrisy is just, like the people that they hate in government. Like the hypocrisy of some of these maxis is just like the hypocrisy of the people that they supposedly dislike in government. They got rich from BTC, and now they want there to be zero innovation within crypto and no one else benefiting from it at this point. It's just like, so I don't understand that. I don't know. Is it as simple just as like I already got my riches from it and I don't care about anybody else? I mean, I just don't understand how you could ever be at any point in time against innovation. I don't understand it.
Well, it's part of the Maxi mentality. I think a lot of people in Hex suffer from it too. Now, the difference is we've got a finished product that is pretty standalone and does amazing things. So, I don't want to say, well, they say that about Bitcoin, so that's why they act that way. But, when you dig down deeper, it is old, outdated, slow. There's a lot of problems with it. We really haven't had any problems other than price down with Hex. That's the only issue that we've seen. It still works. It still prints that at that time every day, so yeah, I mean, it is the Maxi mentality that we're dealing with. And unfortunately it will be that way probably as long as communities exist.
Yeah, I think so too. So that's enough of the Bitcoin talk. Feel free to participate in the poll as well. But if you guys are enjoying these streams so far tonight, do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate it. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's get more so into the PulseChain ecosystem. So first off, we'll talk about this thing from last night. So right around 5 o'clock Eastern time, there were news that I guess the court docket on Court Listener with the kind of erroneous SEC lawsuit that was filed against Richard Hart had an update with the SEC folks claiming that they officially served him. This caused many people on Twitter that I don't know, have some kind of like a newspaper complex or something. I don't know what it is, but it prompted them to tweet, the all caps breaking news: Richard Hart has been served, and all these things. Then we get further news from it, and you see what the document actually says, which is basically that we haven't really served him. We don't know where he is. We just left some papers somewhere where he may have lived at one time. And we're going to hope that you consider this proper service. So, I know you feel the same way I do about this Ewok. I don't really care about the news or lack thereof here, because regardless of whether he really was or not, this is a step that would happen in this stupid process anyway. So who cares? Like the reactionary stuff already happened. This is where the price is. Nothing's going to change. Nothing has actually changed with the price since any of that stuff. But I know our gripe is more so with some of these tweeters and where they've gone with this news, or again, lack thereof. So what was your take? We talked about it in the green room, but what's kind of your take on how some people go about reporting this stuff whenever it comes to light?
Yeah, tweeters or twatters or whatever you want to call them, but yeah, it's the whole breaking news mentality. They want to be the first ones to post something, true or not, and get that clout from it, the interaction, the engagement. Many of you don't know this. We haven't really talked about it on stream, but behind the scenes, we've decided to try to talk a lot less about the whole lawsuit and things like that, because we feel that it's creating our own chilling effect when it's really not necessary. Everything could go on without him, no matter what happens. We're hoping for a SEC victory. I think it would be even more bullish. But again, we don't need him to like we just got done saying a little bit ago. The contract is locked. It still works. Everything is good. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. And I worry that people are just being overzealous with their news and just trying for engagement. One of the posts I saw, the dude had like 100 followers, and like, breaking news, and he was arguing with one of the guys. I forget what's the guy's name, the lawyer guy that we kind of refer to.
Nuclear Herbs.
Nuclear Herbs. Yeah, he's a good person to follow for accurate information. And he'll even admit when he says, "I don't know. I've not done this part of the process before," but he does put out a lot of good information. And then you get some other people that have no idea what they're talking about, and they just want FUD. They just want to see it fail. So they'll do everything they can to put stuff out there, whether it's true or not, and hope it causes FUD and price go down, because that's their ultimate goal. Again, Hex definitely threatens, I think, the Bitcoin people. It always has. They didn't like Richard because he jumped ship and did his own thing. There's a lot to it. So, anytime they can bash him or say bad things about him, they do. So, we've tried to steer clear of talking about it a whole lot. But when things like this happen, we've got to let people know that read the information before you go putting it out there. Half of this is not true. I don't know any court that would accept this as service. I think someone earlier today said the address was a library. And when you break down the meaning of the street, it's something like Richard Home or something like that. So either he was very creative at one time and used that as an address. It's kind of funny when you look into it, but it is a library. So yeah, and they left a note at the police station. They put something on the door and considered that service with a note at the police station. I don't see it holding up in court. And, who knows if that, he probably doesn't even live anywhere close to there. He's always been a step or two ahead. Now, on the flip side of this, a lot of us just want it to be over with, right? We're tired.
Mhm.
We think there's a good fight. We want to see it play out. We want to see it go through the process, and hopefully a victory or a settlement, worst case scenario, so yeah, I mean, that's my take on it. I wish people would stop rushing to put news out that wasn't
Yeah.
really news, and it's just FUD, unnecessary FUD, that's causing people a lot of anguish at this time of the bear market. So
I think that's the big thing is people need to stop with the breaking news thing. Like I know that your prideful Twitter follower count and people rely on you for the news or something, which couldn't be further from the truth, but at least get it right, before you get happy trigger finger and report
right,
it to your followers. Like it's just ridiculous. So, yeah, in my opinion, I mean, if you want to know anything about any of that from somebody who isn't full of shit, I would follow Nuclear Herbs on Twitter. And I mean, again, like you said, Ewok, he's not. He will say, if there's something that he admits that he could get something wrong. But I mean, he certainly knows more what he's talking about than most of these people out here that are just taking clippings and stuff. And actually, another thing, I saw Funding Jim, Gary Woods brought this up to bring him up again. But he said that, one of the things against Twitter policy right now, speaking of Elon Musk as well, is reporting what is not should not be public information like that. And like court proceedings of any kind fall under that umbrella. Like there are addresses in there, whether they're real or not. They're in there and it's not supposed to be for public consumption, like those documents. Now, it is on that court listener site. But again, Nuclear Herbs, when he shares that stuff, it's because he pays for a Pacer account, as any attorney in the United States would. They have a Pacer account with court listener, so they can get in there and view documents for like their own cases, their own clients and stuff like that. But you can see it for anything. So that shit is not just out there for everyone to see. And technically is a violation that it's even on Twitter. So, also be careful of that stuff when you're sharing it, because again, interpersonal court proceedings of any kind, it doesn't matter what it is, that is not for the public eye. That is not for people to see. And I don't mean that. I'm not defending, Richard. I'm certainly not defending the SEC. I'm not defending anybody. I'm just saying that in general, that stuff is not supposed to be for people to see, especially when it's just like little backs and forth before anything's even happening. And I wanted to respond to something you said, Ewok, too. The other reason we have made a decision not to really talk about it as much is because it doesn't matter. Like the SEC is a complete corrupt clown show. They lose at every single turn. Everybody hates Gary Gensler. They're just not a threat. There's infighting even within their own establishment. I never remember her name, but Hester Pierce, I think, is already somebody that's dissenting and has said, whether it's real or not, a lot of pro crypto stuff. So, I mean, this is not something to worry about. I don't know why people get their panties in a bunch about this agency when they are clearly out to hurt people. Judges have agreed with that. And, and they favored Ripple, the most security-like crypto that exists, over the SEC. So stop worrying about this shit and stop getting fudded out of everything every time you see some stupid court document. Like you could literally get something in the mail that's a jury summons, and it looks like you just got like a lifetime sentence in the mail. I mean, those documents look like that. It just is what it is.
And at the same time, they missed FTX, which was right under their nose.
Yeah, right.
They didn't miss it. They did it on purpose because they were getting funded by it. So, yeah, they're not there to protect us, and that's been made quite obvious. So, yeah, I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith in anything that they say or do.
Yeah. So I would move on from that and do not get your news from these people that are just fly by. If I'll put it this way, if somebody puts breaking news in all caps before a tweet, just take it with a grain of salt is all I will say.
Do a little research. Do a little research first.
DYOR, as we say in crypto, for sure. So now in regards to what has been the drama, or what we have applauded and preferred here over the last few weeks within PulseChain. So the IPFS links, basically the decentralized links that are on all of the front ends for the PulseChain bridge now, PulseX. Those are really the main two. RH tweeted the other day about how Uniswap front end endorsed false reports to hosts for being a scam because Uniswap front ends are so often forked to make scams. So he talked about that. Like this happens to Uniswap as well. And these other different front ends. So the rest of crypto is just going to have to get on board with what is happening in PulseChain. And I don't mean like so they can use PulseChain. I mean, in the long run, this is what is going to start to happen because of some of this regulatory stuff, the asinine stuff that Chief Warren is trying to get across and things like that. All of these things in this attempted legislation and what they're trying to do to shut down crypto, I think people need to get familiar now. You know, there's this whole conversation of like, oh, for retail investors, it's going to be so hard for them to understand what an IPFS link is and click it, or, you know, God forbid if they had to download the bridge or something like that, even though in past crypto markets, people downloaded and had wallets on their PCs and things like that. I think people who actually care about crypto and are interested in it and want to get into stuff that is actual decentralized finance in the future are just going to have to get on board with understanding that you'll need to maybe do one extra little click or something. So governments can't just shut down links that are out there or, you know, download files or whatever it is. It isn't that hard. It's something people do all the time in their regular lives and have done before in crypto. I mean, like you do things like this. You download applications. It's not that difficult. So I just think people, and I am talking specifically to a couple people within PulseChain that I'm sure people know who I'm talking about, just need to stop bitching. And if you're constantly bitching and not offering like any solutions or anything, you know, start positioning it differently or offer a solution is all I have to say. So, but what do you make of it? I mean, I again, love that we're going in this direction. And I think that other true DeFi products that really care about themselves and, you know, how they are to the rest of crypto, they should adopt what we're seeing here at PulseChain.
I think you will see that. I think we'll see that moving forward, probably a little bit later in the, you know, in this cycle. I really think that we always say it, Richard's a couple steps ahead, and people will see it. People will take the idea and they'll run with it. Now, you know, you have to have a website to host them. You know, obviously hex.com or go.hex.com is a site that hosts those IPFS links. You know, there will be other ways to obviously have to get them out there because you can still take those websites down. The IPFS link will be there. You may just have to find another source to get it, but people need to get used to it now. Again, you said it. What's one more step? You know, crypto isn't easy for the beginners. It is a process that you have to learn. You have to do it a couple times to feel comfortable with it. You know, now we do it in our sleep. You know, you can do it with your eyes closed pretty much. As with anything that you do and you learn a new process, it's going to be difficult. So if you learn it the right way the first time, I really think that this will be adopted by many other people to protect their true DeFi. Obviously, the ones that are true DeFi, I think you'll see it may weed them out a little bit too, and help you figure out who is real DeFi and who isn't. You know, could be a litmus test for that to see who's, you know, who doesn't want it and who wants to keep things on a platform that could always be removed. And when that platform is gone, so is your money, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And great comment by Carl in the chat that I highlighted a minute ago. You know, so he says, you know, try opening a bank account. If you want to talk about like, oh, it's so difficult, I got to click this IPFS link. Open a bank account. If you want to look at it in a crypto form, the comparison I've been making is like try getting on an exchange. All of these things take as much as like actually more time than the one extra step to make sure you're actually decentralized. You know, I just don't understand some of this stuff. I mean, you have to sign off your firstborn basically to do some of these other things. So yeah, again, it is how do you choose, and I don't mean to get like hippy dippy here or anything, but how do you choose to look at the world? Like, are you going to view everything from a negative prism and find something to complain about, not offer any solutions? Because that's what anybody that is bitching about that's what they're doing, in my opinion. So, all right, well, if you don't think the retail is going to get in, then hurry up and sell and go buy Solana or something that's already gone up. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you going to do? I know I'm not saying that there can't be like dissenting opinion. There certainly can. I don't mean that. We need ideas and stuff like that. But if all you're doing is complaining and not offering any ideas, I don't really have any time for you. So
Exactly.
Yeah. So any other thoughts on the IPFS stuff there, Ewok?
No, I'm just waiting for the punchline to this joke.
What's that? Hold on.
Gary Gensler, Roger Goodell, and Jay Monahan walk into a bar.
We're waiting for it, DJ Moon Boy. So hit us with it. Let's turn our attention. Oh, so Power City launched today. Now, yeah. I don't know much about it. I don't know how much you know. I know there's a lot under their umbrella from everything that I saw. I watched Corey Geary and Dane, two guys that I really enjoyed their show when they do it in the daytime here. They talked about it today. They sacrificed for it because those guys sacrifice for everything under the sun, I believe. But yeah, hey, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know a lot about it. The platform looked like it didn't have a lot going yet, and I think they're kind of doing a step-by-step launch. But it is another thing that's been pledging that it's going to launch for some time, and we've known about it for a long time on PulseChain that has delivered something so far. Yep. So what do you know about it? And I guess I should actually go to the site that they did post today. But what all do you know about it anyway?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about it other than the fact that there is a new token called Watt. Where you can stake the Watt. Now, what it does, I don't know. They've been somewhat secretive. I know a lot of the insiders probably know all the little things that it's going to do. I think there's going to be a similar setup to liquid loans. I think it's a different. So liquid loans is the Liquidity fork. I think Power City will have the Aave fork. I think. So. And I don't know a whole lot about Aave. So it's
basically just a trading platform, I believe.
Yeah, really. But I believe it's is there margin trading with it? I don't know. I don't know enough to talk about it yet. I haven't looked into it, but yeah, it's exciting to see another group come on board with their product and launch that sacrificed. It's been a while since the sacrifices have happened. So
yeah,
again, good to see that they've finally launched and put something out. I do believe they were also kind of waiting for the Oracle to happen, and that was part of the holdup for them as well. So it's good. It's good for the people that did invest but yeah, I need to look into it, take some time and check out what it really is. But as far as I saw today when I logged in, the only thing that you could really do was exchange for Watt and stake it.
I think that's all that they launched.
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot available right now, but looking forward to see what they come up with, and should be exciting.
Well, I did forget this. They're actually the ones behind the Portal X bridge swap that we've talked about before. So that Portal X tool, which is a bridge and swap all in one, that I know has had issues so far. And again, that might come back to the Oracle thing now that Fetch Oracle has launched on PulseChain. But I know that's been available for months. We made a video on it, but I think it's been having issues since then, or it isn't fully functional until they, got the actual Oracle and stuff like that. So,
well, there were problems with part of the front end and the exchange that they were using to get it over to PulseChain, I believe. And I know that some people had some money stuck there. It was essentially they put lipstick on a pig kind of and called it an exchange. They were using changenow.io or something as part of one of the protocols, and there were other things that were kind of conflicting with each other that gave it some problems. So yes, Portal X was also theirs, but they do have some other products that they're planning on launching. I just can't remember what they are right now.
Well, I'm looking at their Twitter. They have the Earn protocol, which I think is one of their bigger things. Earn Pulse
Earn,
staking rewards. Yeah,
Earn. I think it was Earn instead of Aave.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. That's what it is. Earn. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there will be more to come out with that as well. And they're kind of doing more of a tiered approach here. But I think we are seeing the floodgates probably open up, which, we've had some products launched on PulseChain obviously for some time, but now with liquid loans officially being live as of a week and a half ago now, almost 2 weeks ago. Now that we've seen that, I think we could see the floodgates with like any other laggards maybe that haven't come along yet. So,
Yep.
yeah, continue to see good stuff, and we will see more stuff built on PulseChain for sure, and more things come to it. So glad those guys have something live anyway. And I am looking forward to Portal X Swap being fully functional because it eliminates a step for you, and you can bridge and swap all right there. Say what you want about how to get to PulseChain, or complain about like, oh, I got to download the bridge or whatever. We've got the actual bridge now as a tool. Eventually we'll have this Portal X Swap as a tool. You've got Coast. There's so many ways to be able to bridge over. There's another bridge that I'm forgetting the name of that is on the PulseChain bridge main page at the bottom of the screen if you want to check it out. There's many options at this point. So that is true decentralization, and we are doing it here. So I'm glad to be a part of it for sure.
Well, I think Hex Scout has their own thing. Go Pulse has their own thing. So there's a lot of things that are out there. Lots of options for you.
Yeah. It's Token Express is the other, if talking about just bridges anyway. Token, it always looks like token sex to me, but it's tokensx.link.
Right.
And that is another bridge as well that is fully functional and easy to use. So that is that. So shout out to the Power City guys. What do we have here from DJ Moonboy?
He says, anyone who hasn't bought the Created Crypto Tri-Blend t-shirt, you should. Feels great. Looks great. Get one for Hexmas.
I love it. Tri-blend t-shirts are the way to go. I'm telling you. Like it's what are the three? I'm forgetting what the blend is. It's polyester, just a little bit of cotton, and like rayon or something like that.
Yeah.
Breathable. Cotton shirts suck. I mean, I actually am wearing one right now, but cotton shirts are just
shrink.
Like they shrink. Yeah, you can't breathe in them. It's just not. I'm not a fan. But we have cotton shirts on there too. So whichever one you prefer. Let's wrap up with this. This is everybody's favorite topic, and I assure you, you probably find something out or hear something here from Ewok or I in this conversation that you didn't know before. And a huge disclaimer: we are not tax professionals. We are not tax attorneys. We just do taxes, much like you, or as you should be anyway. But talking about crypto taxes, hey, it's December. We're going to start worrying about this stuff probably in the next 6 weeks to April of next year. Here in the US, obviously. So really just talking about what our process is and answering maybe some questions in terms of sharing what we've done in the past and kind of best practices when it comes to crypto reporting and stuff. So first off, Ewok, I'll let you take the lead on this and then we can just have a conversation. But first off, of the many crypto-friendly tax services that there are, and I'm not talking about like Tax Act or TurboTax. Those are like your traditional taxes. I use TurboTax, but those are just kind of your like traditional ones in the United States for regular income or whatever. But in terms of the crypto platforms themselves that can help you out, what is it that you have used and had a lot of success with, and what can you tell us about it?
Well, I think we've talked about it before, but we both use Coinly as a platform. Coinly with a K, Koinly. And they do a pretty good job of sorting out your transactions, dealing with your hex stakes, things like that. And they recently added PulseChain after several people had asked them. So there's a fair amount of people that are using it. Now, there was a problem recently with the Block Explorer, because the link that was scan.pulsechain.com that was linked to the syncing of your wallet, they moved that scan.pulsechain.com to an IPFS link. Coinly did not update that on their side yet, so it's hard to sync your wallets in PulseChain. But they have added it. It is a good tool to use. So we both, like I said, we both use it and like it. And until there is something better, which I've heard there are a couple different things that are in the works, but just haven't been released yet.
Yeah. And they do a great job. I mean, like,
Yeah.
as soon as you found out about the link to PulseScan being broken on there, now they do have PulseChain on there, as you said, as a blockchain. So you do have that on there. But after the IPFS thing happened, they have access to the actual correct pulse scan now. You and I both submitted tickets, so I'm sure they'll get that corrected. But yeah, for anybody who hasn't used Coinly, and I can't speak for any other services because I haven't used them, I've heard of other ones. We can only talk about what we've used, but you can literally just put in your wallet addresses in there. It'll just run transactions back to the beginning of time, whatever you request. The same with your exchanges, which you will want to do, because remember, like, you're not just worrying about what did I do in 2023? We've all been down now for 2 years in terms of the prices of everything. You want to make sure that your long-term capital gains, if and when you ever get any in this market, are long-term capital gains, not short-term capital gains. So you need, if your question is like, well, should I really put like my Coinbase API key or my Coinbase history or Kraken history from like 2017 the whole way to now on there? Yes, would be the answer to that. Because if you've held something for over a year, that falls in the US under long-term capital gains, which are only 15% if memory serves. And anything other than that would be short-term capital gains, and you would be taxed at whatever your tax bracket is. So you want to make sure everything is accounted for those reasons, because if you have been a hodler and suffered through these markets, you want to make sure you get rewarded with, I mean, you're still having money taken from you, but you want to make sure you get rewarded by having less money taken from you than the maximum you can get screwed out of. So,
and another little tip, this time of year, especially, if you did happen to buy some assets at a lot higher of a price, might not be a bad idea to sell them now, harvest your losses, and buy them right back. I know with the stock market, they make you wait a month or so. You can't really harvest it like that, but crypto, there is no law to do that right now. So technically you could sell and then turn around and buy back in later or tomorrow, even if you wanted to wait a day. But that way you could capture your losses, at least as a offset if you did have some gains as well. So it is that time of year to be thinking about things like that. Again, I would definitely talk to your accountant or advisor or somebody to make sure that you're not, messing anything else up. But that is also a strategy that, like I say, approaching the end of the year, you want to think about those type of things.
and same with taking profits as well. I mean, again, not that anybody's in any huge position to do that, but if you are, you may want to decide, like, do I want to take them in 2023? Do I want to take them in 2024? It's just all things that you will have to decide for yourself anyway. And when you do that, set aside whatever, a quarter of it up to probably a third of it, potentially for taxes, and if you overcount how much you'll need, you can just use that DCA back in later on or something
There
like
you
that.
go.
Talk about this Ewok, because this I know something that you know a lot about from using Coinly in the past. But when it comes to, since this ecosystem, people are going to be staking hex a lot. How do you designate money? I should say hex that you received back from your hex mints, stakes, whatever you want to call them, when you do claim those. How do you designate those on there? Because is it just regular income, or is it counted as something else, the yield that you receive back from those hex stakes?
Well, they are considered, different people consider them different ways. So you really, again, you have to talk to somebody. On Coinly, though, there is um, a manual button that you can hit to change the classification.
Right.
When I make a stake, I consider that a sent to pool type of transaction. And then when I claim a stake, there is a received from pool. So
Right.
if you classify it that way, it does affect your income a little bit because you're not really taking. Well, again, it's a fine line. I'm I don't want to be the
You're not
professional that
giving advice. I just was
no,
interested in what you've done yourself. I mean,
right.
you by
So
no
that's
means are you
how I
telling anyone what
classify
to do.
them. And Mountain Crypto Advisors, they handle the. I use Brookhaven tax advisors,
Mhm.
so they are the ones that are filling it out and doing it. So if there's an audit, they handle it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially, so but that's how we have decided to classify them as a pooled transaction where I'm not really cashing out. Um, there's money going into a pool, there's money coming out of a pool, or actually hex going into a pool, hex coming out of a pool, and usually hex going right back into the pool. So there isn't really any. Now, if I were to sell that for USD, USDC, or whatever it may
Right.
be, then there's my taxable transaction. But as far as staking, unstaking, restaking, it's classified a little bit differently. Or you can if you have the tax advisor to do it for you. So that's
Yeah.
how I do it.
Yeah, and, I've done it that way in the past as well, the pool tool that they have on there. But I mean, it is great. I mean, you just have to plug your wallets in, have them refresh for, whatever duration of time you want to, and you'll be on your way. Essentially, at the end of it, it'll give you an Excel sheet that you can get everything from. I think it costs, last I remember, it depends on how many transactions you have.
Right.
So if you're like a super degen trader, the cost is going to be higher than if you're just kind of hodling. But yeah, I mean, it's your
But still
standard.
not bad. If you have that many
No,
transactions, I think you may be paying like $300, $400 for the year.
at the most. I don't even think it's
Um,
that much.
if you're
Yeah.
under 100 transactions, I think it's only $79 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then anywhere in between, you might be paying 150. Anywhere
Yeah.
between like I don't know, 150 and 500 transactions or something like that through the year. So yeah,
Right.
it's not bad. It's a decent deal. They do give you the opportunity to break down the transactions, um, claim them, or classify them how you want,
Yeah.
and it's definitely helpful. Does a good job.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they have a good balance of automating things and giving
Mhm.
you options, like you said, Ewok.
Yeah. Yep.
As long as you feel comfortable with those options and have the advice from a tax professional to select certain options
Yeah.
anyway. So,
I will make a recommendation though. If you do have a lot of transactions, I would make a habit of checking in about once a month, beginning of the month, whatever. That way you're not going back and trying to remember what the hell you did in January.
mm,
You can usually remember what you've done in the past couple weeks. But if there's a lot of transactions and you're looking now and being like, what the heck was that
what
from
is this?
March? What's
Yeah.
that from
I've been
March?
there.
I don't even remember doing that. So it is a good idea. The more you have now, if you're just staking on staking and something like that, but don't forget, there's airdrops. There's a lot of things. There's not only with your hex stakes, are you claiming your hedron? Are you claiming your communist token? So all
Yeah.
of those become transactions, and when you claim those, they are airdrops because they're technically a free uh, coin that was given to you when you did something else. So
Yeah.
the first time they're at least, and then when you stake them again back to the receive from pool and sent to pool. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think you'll usually be covered there. Usually the stuff that I run into is kind of your basic tax stuff where, we all have an issue where we can't figure it out for a little while. But for me, it's always like some buy of something doesn't trace its way back to when I initially put
right,
like USDC on Coinbase. So the whole transaction line is missing.
yeah,
So that's an important thing because it'll look like you were just given like airdropped something or something. You want to make sure that your initial capital is in there. So there's that trace of like, this is money
right,
I put in. This
right,
is when I had it in until this is when I sold or didn't sell, rather than I just like received this money.
right.
That's
Because it's
something
the
I run
difference
into.
of a zero and a dollar, right?
Yeah,
Starting at a zero, so you're paying full gains rather than you actually purchased $1 worth of USDC. You want to start at that point at least.
Right. Something you wanted to bring up, Ewok, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, or it was just a question that you had, or just wanted to kind of discuss. But you also brought up when it comes to liquid loans for this
Mhm.
during tax time. You made the point that loans are not taxable,
Right.
but the liquidations would be taxable, right?
Correct. Yes. If you take a loan out, you can go buy a car. That is
Hmm.
tax-free money. And as long as you pay it back, you're fine. It's like borrowing money from the bank. However, if you don't back up and collateralize your loan enough and you get liquidated, that liquidation is a taxable event. So depending
Hmm.
on where you're at, all countries are different. If you're not in the United States or wherever, jurisdictions are different. Look into it, but yeah, borrowing money and using it to purchase something is not really a taxable event in the United States. However, getting liquidated is. So just be
Yeah.
careful.
And that does make sense because it is a decision that you made, to put that trade in and ultimately get liquidated. So
Right.
that does make sense. So a lot of food for thought. Obviously, it's a little bit more complex when it comes to crypto, but thankfully we do have these tools. And Mr. Chink said it earlier, I believe. Even Coinly, not all these different places, these different tax softwares for crypto. They don't know or have all the answers to how the IRS, yeah, there we go, will view things. It is still the Wild West out
Yeah.
here. Yeah. Maybe not as much as it used to be, but it still is. So,
Yep.
yeah, just the way you designate things, just be careful. But, chances are you're going to be fine. So, I've
Well,
never really
as
been
long as you're
concerned.
reporting, and you're reporting all your transactions, that's more what they want to see. It's the people that they know that are doing stuff that aren't reporting anything.
Right. Yeah.
You will get some benefit of the doubt because there is a fine line, or not a fine line, but there is a lack of clarity, I guess. As long as you're reporting things and doing the best you can, I think they're going to be happy with that.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too. So, yeah, I think that about wraps us up for tonight, though. I'm glad we had that conversation. We'll probably, talk a little bit more tax stuff maybe as we get into the spring and everything. But if you guys enjoyed the stream tonight, please do hit the like. We appreciate it. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Great show tonight. Moral of the story, I think, with this stream tonight, obviously nobody's really worried about the Elizabeth Warren stuff. She can continue to play her games. In terms of our ecosystem, hey, I think like we talked about Ewok, I think we maybe chill out in this zone for a while longer. I'm still long and strong and wanting to still DCA into this at every turn, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, just I think green candles will be ahead. Just got to keep our heads on a swivel here. I don't think there's too much longer. So, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, just be patient. Keep putting in. I mean, I know a lot of people are out of powder at this point, and have exhausted
Yeah.
what dry powder they did have. If you have any left over, it's not hurting to do it now. But yeah, patience is going to be key, and not succumbing to the FUD here in the next several months
Hmm.
will be your best option. Like I said, sometimes doing nothing is the best thing that you can do. So
That's absolutely right. And I look, I'm a hypocrite by saying this. I'll admit that, but sometimes just being able to sit on your hands, like you just said, Ewok, and continue to hold, even if you can't DCA anymore at this point. I mean, is I don't want to say as good as DCAing, but just not doing anything, not selling, holding on. You're still going to be probably okay in the long run with
yep.
everything. So just hang tight. And again, I am a hypocrite. It's very hard for me to do that. So I understand that completely. So,
Yeah.
hey, we want to thank all you guys. Great show tonight, Carl. I don't recall seeing your name before, but you had some good input tonight, so I appreciate it. Mr. Chinks as well, as usual. Blue Collar Grunt, thank you for being here. Valiant Low Key. We got a lot here tonight. Jim Horton, DJ Moonboy, of course. Thank you all for being here. Didn't see Philly tonight. Didn't see a couple regulars, but I'm sure they'll hit us on the back end. So, again, we do this every Tuesday night. We'll be here next Tuesday, the 19th. So, for my friend Crypto Ewok, who is now on that side of the screen, this has been Boi Crypto, and we'll catch you next week right here on the Creed of Crypto podcast. Thanks, guys.